Everyone at Brighton High knew that being a new teacher was hard, but no one warned Miss Zoya just how brutal it could be. She wasn't much older than some of her senior students. At 24, she was fresh out of university, eager to teach, full of dreams, and determined to inspire young minds. Her first day was filled with hope, until she met the boys from Section D. They called themselves the Kings. 3 spoiled, cocky seniors who thought rules didn't apply to them. Zain, the ringleader, was the son of a politician. The others, Rafi and Denial, were just as arrogant, always looking for trouble, always looking for someone to crush. Miss Zoya didn't react the way they expected. When they made smart remarks, she remained calm. When they skipped class, she marked them absent. When they threatened her with connections, she simply smiled and said, "I'm here to teach, not bow down." And that quiet strength made them furious. They mocked her behind her back. Posted her photos online. Started false rumors about her. Some students laughed. Others stayed quiet. But she kept showing up. Every day. Every class. Until one day, they decided to go too far. It was a Tuesday afternoon. The halls were mostly empty. Miss Zoya stayed behind after class, grading papers near the stairwell. That's when it happened. She heard footsteps behind her, fast, angry. Before she could turn, a hard shove hit her back. And then, air. She tumbled down the staircase. Her body hit the steps hard, each slam echoing through the empty hallway. Pain shot through her ribs, her shoulder, her spine. Her head thudded at the bottom step. Silence. She lay there, breathless, shaking. The boys stood at the top, laughing. "Oops," Zain sneered. "Guess she can't teach discipline anymore." They didn't expect her to get back up. But they didn't know who they were dealing with. Zoya's father had raised her differently. After her mother passed away when she was a child, her father enrolled her in martial arts not just for protection, but for discipline, strength, and confidence. She trained for years in silence. She never boasted. Never showed off. Because strength isn't about power. It's about control. And that day, she had every reason to use both. The school nurse rushed her to the hospital. Bruised ribs. Torn muscles. Mild concussion. But no broken bones. She stayed silent during questioning. She didn't name them. Not yet. Instead, she requested 2 weeks off, not to rest, but to train. To remember who she was. And prepare. When she returned, something about her was different. She walked with purpose. Her eyes had focus. And she had one request, to be given a session during the school's self-defense week. The principal agreed. The auditorium filled quickly. Students whispered as she walked on stage, the teacher who had been thrown down the stairs. The teacher who didn't cry or quit. Then the curtain rose. And for the next hour, they didn't see a quiet, soft-spoken woman. They saw a storm. Zoya demonstrated every move she had trained in. How to block. How to escape. How to use your body against violence. She didn't name names, but her message was clear. To the cowards who hide behind cruelty, your time is up. The applause was deafening. But the real showdown hadn't happened yet. 3 days later, after school, the Kings waited again. This time near the back gate. Still playing superhero. Rafi mocked. "How about we end the show?" They tried to surround her. Zain moved first. Bad idea. In a single motion, she shifted, sidestepped, and swept his leg. He crashed to the ground, stunned. Rafi lunged, she locked his wrist mid-air and flipped him backward onto the pavement. A scream of pain shot out, dislocated shoulder. Denial tried to grab her from behind, she elbowed his ribs and sent him staggering into the wall. By the time a teacher arrived and called security, 2 of them were groaning on the ground, and the third had tears in his eyes. The school couldn't hide it. Parents were involved. News spread. CCTV footage surfaced. The truth about the staircase attack came out. Zoya didn't press criminal charges, instead, she requested mandatory counseling, apology letters, and permanent school expulsion for the 3 boys. The principal asked why she didn't want revenge. Her answer: because revenge makes me like them. I'm here to teach lessons, not just in textbooks. What followed was a complete shift in the school culture. Girls who had stayed silent about bullying came forward. Boys who once laughed nervously began to show real respect. Miss Zoya's self-defense classes became part of the curriculum. And the mural outside the school gate. It showed a young woman, surrounded by shadows, standing tall at the top of a staircase, unbroken. Final message. This isn't just a story of strength. It's a reminder that kindness isn't weakness, silence isn't surrender, and when you've had enough, you have the right to fight back. To every student, teacher, or person who's ever been knocked down, get back up. Train your body. Sharpen your mind. Because when courage speaks, even bullies listen. After the incident at the gate, Miss Zoya didn't celebrate. She didn't gloat. She didn't even speak about it. Instead, she went back to class the next morning like nothing had happened. But the students noticed. The whispers stopped. The mocking died. Even those who had once ignored her now looked at her with quiet admiration and guilt. Not because she fought back, but because she stood up for herself without ever lowering her dignity. A day later, the school held a special assembly. What was meant to be a regular discipline briefing turned into something unforgettable. The principal took the stage, holding the file of the 3 expelled students. He didn't read their names. He didn't scold the audience. Instead, he invited Zoya to speak. She stood on that stage, microphone in hand, in front of nearly 600 students. The same students who once watched her suffer without lifting a voice. Her eyes scanned the room, calm but intense. And then, she said, "Some of you think silence is weakness. That walking away means surrender. That kindness can be crushed. But let me tell you something no one ever taught you: real power doesn't scream. It doesn't threaten. It doesn't hide behind a group. Real power stands alone and says, you will not break me. I didn't fight them because I wanted violence. I fought because they left me no choice. And I'm not here to tell you how strong I am. I'm here to remind you of how strong you are. If you've been pushed down, laughed at, humiliated, you are not alone. Stand. Speak. Prepare yourself. And when the time comes, don't fight with hate. Fight with purpose." The entire hall stood up in applause. Even teachers had tears in their eyes. But what moved people the most was what came next. Zoya launched a school-wide initiative called Project Rise. It wasn't just about self-defense. It was about emotional healing. Each student was invited, anonymously, to share their story of hurt. Every week, a different story would be read aloud in morning assembly. Stories poured in. A boy shared how he had been slapped in the locker room for crying. A girl revealed how a classmate recorded her changing and spread it online. Another wrote how they ate lunch in the bathroom for 6 months to avoid insults. Miss Zoya read every story with care, never revealing names, only truth. And slowly, something unbelievable happened. Students stopped being afraid of speaking up. They realized they were never truly alone. One afternoon, as Zoya was leaving school, a shy girl from class 8 stopped her. Her voice was soft, her eyes filled with tears. "Miss," she whispered, "I wanted to thank you. I was planning to drop out before you came. I thought no one cared. But after what you did, I believe again. In people. In myself." Zoya hugged her gently. And in that moment, she knew. She hadn't just taught a lesson. She had sparked a revolution. Weeks turned into months. The school began to shift, not just in policy, but in energy. A sense of respect, safety, and empowerment grew. Even students who once followed the bullies' lead started volunteering for Project Rise. One of them, Aram, stood up in class one day and admitted how he used to laugh when others were bullied. "I didn't know who I was," he confessed. "But now, I want to be better." The story even reached local news. "Young teacher uses combat training to uplift students, not destroy bullies," the headlines read. Zoya was invited to speak at nearby schools, share her journey, and guide other educators on how to build strength-based classrooms, ones where fear was replaced with confidence, and shame replaced with community. But Zoya never let fame distract her from her purpose. She remained grounded. She continued to teach math. She continued to paint. And she continued to heal, alongside her students. 1 year later, Brighton High had changed. Truly. The staircase where Zoya had once fallen was now repainted with bold letters. They tried to push her down, she rose higher. It wasn't just art. It was a reminder. Every student who walked by understood its message. Not because it looked beautiful, but because they lived through the story behind it. Final closing message. This story isn't just about one teacher's strength. It's about the power of choosing dignity over destruction. The power of standing even when the world tries to knock you down. And most of all, it's about realizing that you never need permission to protect yourself. To the silent ones, the scared ones, the broken ones, you are not weak. You are not alone. And when you rise for everyone who couldn't.